Switch back a little bit. Hi, everyone. How's that? Yeah, we're good? I think we got everybody. Hi. I hope that you are well. We got 2 screens again today. I'm so excited that you're here. If you're here and ready to learn about your VA process, you came to the right place. We did this yesterday, and I I have panic attacks like in life, like it's a regular thing. And so yesterday it was like having a panic attack on the computer. And I kept saying, I've never taught this before, but yet I'm telling everything I know from memory, right? It was just a little interesting when I thought about it. I'm like, it's that place between what you know and what you don't, and trusting yourself. And it's just kind of interesting, but I'm really glad that you guys are here today. We're going to do an awesome live. I've got a list of things we're going to go through. And last week we talked about really what it takes to make a decision. Hi, Haley. Thanks for being here with me today. Last week we talked about just everything you need to know, navigating the VA healthcare, what the administration was, all of those things. Today we're doing more of a how-to. So that's what we're going to be going over. And if this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Leslie. I am one of the co-founders of the Veteran Standard Operating Procedure. We're an education system that helps veterans get through one of the most challenging time of their life. And one of the things that is hard about that process is that there's so much unknown. There's so much that you don't know about the process going into it, things that you wish somebody would have told you. So our mission at the VSOP is helping break down the education barriers so that every veteran can get their benefits. They can come home both physically and mentally, and that's our goal. So as we're teaching this year, 2026, this is what we're teaching vets. We want to teach them to find peace in the journey, comfort in knowing that there's somebody there with them, and that they're not going to be by themselves. Because after I got out of the military in 2015, 14 days later, through no fault of our own, the home that we were in, was foreclosed. We were evicted. It was 14 days after I got out of the military, and then things just continued to snowball from there, and it didn't feel good. And I've heard so many veterans be like, man, it was disorienting when I first got out of the military. And so we wanted to figure out how to make things simple, how to make things better for everyone. And that's how the Veteran Standard Operating Procedure was started, just by doing the thing of answering the questions that came across our desks, reading the decision letters and helping people translate. After I got out of the Coast Guard, I was recruited by an organization that did veterans legislation, and that's where I learned to read a lot of this stuff. So that's what we help with. It's really a hand-holding process all the way through to make sure that no veteran falls through the cracks. So we're going to talk about starting the process. And really, it's not about rushing the process. Hi, Carissa. Thank you for being here. It's not about rushing the process. It's about making a decision that, I've been saying this a lot lately, come hell or high water, you're going to get your benefits. You're going to fight the fight, no matter if it takes you a year or 6 years. There's some vets out there, you guys, who have been fighting for a very long time. And so, honestly, the veterans that we work with, most vets, it's taken 3 years to get everything organized, especially because there are a lot of mistakes that are made. And if those have to get corrected, it takes a little bit more time. So it's not about rushing, but it's about knowing the process, knowing where you're at in the process, and knowing where you need to be in the process. So that's really what we like to teach, is making sure. This is just such an uncomfortable angle. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to adjust. This is all live. Um, it's so funny because my background, I went to college to be a photographer, and all of this is smoke and mirrors, right? If you watch these videos that people do, and it's set up and there's lights and there's people behind the scenes. And this is so different. But I hope that coming together on this platform will bring a lot of people support. Behind me, and there's a whole team called the Veteran Standard Operating Procedure. There's a team there that helps vets through all of this. So if what I'm teaching today, hopefully you get pen and paper, but what I'm teaching today isn't like, you're not at the level of where you're like, I need somebody to hold my hand. That's what the Veteran Standard Operating Procedure does. They analyze everything, they hold the dates, they tell you what's going on with your process, where you're at, and they help put these lives on. So a lot of gratitude to them for everything that they're doing to support this, because I think that through this, that a lot of veterans are going to get help. So a big shout out to the VSOP team. So the big thing is, the first thing is deciding that you're going to move forward. The VA is a rule-based system. Everything has rules, right? You can't move one way without it affecting something else. So knowing all those rules is essential. And at the VSOP, we know a lot of those rules, and I'm going to go over them today. So I hope that if you're watching this either live or on the replay, that you're taking notes. So we have to stop for a second. We really have to spend some time with, are you ready? Because making that decision is, again, step one in this whole thing. And once you make the decision, I'm going to ask, like, you take that veteran that lives inside you and you say, go into the end. Whatever the fight is, wherever you have to go look for the information, whatever you have to do, make sure that this is the process that you're like, come hell or high water, I'm going to get my VA benefits. I remember when I made that decision, I had 2 little kids, and this was like a whole nother job. And I would take them to the VA with me, and they would do all of the things. And it was so intense. It was so intense. This process is hard because you're doing it alongside your life. So like, life doesn't stop. You have a family, you have a job, other things going on, and this process can be overwhelming. So that's why I'm talking so much about deciding, because when that fear sets in of like, oh my God, can I just quit? Because it will come. It really will. When that fear comes, you want to be ready. You want to say, no, Leslie said that the fear was going to come, but I said that was going to stay regardless. And at the VSOP, we help people get through all of that fear. Sometimes we get calls from like, hey, I'm at the VA in the parking lot and I'm afraid to go in. We get those phone calls and we say, okay, here's what you do. And once you make that decision, then you have to figure out what path you're going to take. So there's one of 3 paths that you have options to. The self-led process, which is where you're like, I'm going to advocate for myself, because you're the best advocate for yourself. 2 is use a VSO, veteran service officer. They were put into place in America in the early 1900s when people were coming home from the war to help veterans get their benefits. They've been around for a long time. The problem that people have with VSOs is they don't have enough time to sit with them and hear their full story to help put all the pieces together. And then the 3rd and 4th option are the companies that help you do your benefits, or a lawyer. But here's the thing, whichever path you decide, you have to make sure that it fits you. Because some companies, when you're scouting what company is going to help, you have to consider, how are they sharing your information? Is your information safe? Are they using companies overseas to help process the information. Where is your information going? That's really important when you're making that plan. Some of those companies, there's two pieces of legislation that I recommend that you know. One is the GUARD Act, and that's helping preserve VSOs in America. I'm very for VSOs. I just think that the process is a little outdated, and then that's kind of why people fall through the cracks. But they can put in the paperwork for you. You can also put the same thing in on va.gov once you have everything in order. And then the other companies, you just have to be careful. Read your contracts. Sometimes they can charge. I think the new legislation they're pushing to maybe be able to charge like, they said $12,500. So just pay attention when you're figuring out who's going to help you with your benefits. Again, you're the best advocate. That's what I truly believe. I think the VSOP obviously is a great solution because they can tell you all the stuck points. So once you get started, you have to decide, how are you going to get support? And the thing is that some people decide to do it on their own, and then they YouTube and they get all confused. And I have seen paperwork come back and I'm like, oh, okay, you learned this from YouTube. That makes sense. Or, some people are like, I talked to my friend and I talked to the doctor at the VA and I talked to this person, and then I put it all together, and it's like none of it's following the rules or the guidelines. The reason that the VSOP is what it is and why I'm so proud to be here is because our rules don't change. We do the same thing over and over and over, and we stand by the laws that are in place, and we educate and we say, oh, that didn't work. What happened? I think that when you're talking to somebody, you're trying to figure out, ask questions. Say, how many veterans have gone down in their rating? I'm really proud to say that hasn't happened for me yet. And I've been doing this for 10 years. So, of educating vets on how the process works. Ask questions. Where is my information going? All of those things. So, once you've made a decision on how you're going to get there, then you have to start the work, right? The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to file an intent to file. And this is one of the most misunderstood tools and one of the most powerful tools, because this is where you start accruing benefits. In the Coast Guard, I was a storekeeper. I love dealing with money. It's one of my favorite things because I like to see the flow of it. I like to see what's possible. And once you do that intent to file, and you're going to start putting your paperwork together, it's like this imagination of like, oh my gosh, what if this actually works for me? My family and I were going to be able to breathe, right? Groceries get bought. I remember the first time somebody said, Leslie, I just bought groceries and paid rent all at the same time, and I haven't done that since I got home from the war. That type of stuff, that's what matters to me the most. So that's why you're going to go put in your intent to file, because that's when the dreaming can kind of start. And that's when, again, remember, during this process, you're going to feel anxiety. You might want to quit. You have to get a little gritty and say, hey, remember, I said, come hell or high water, I told Leslie I was going to finish. Whatever, you have a drill sergeant that lives inside you, let them come out sometimes. I don't know. Whatever is going to get you through to the end of the process. So you're going to file your intent to file. And you're going to write down that date. Whether you put it on your refrigerator, you're going to tell your friend, you're going to tell a spouse. Do not let that date pass, because if you let that date pass, you're going to miss out on the benefits that were accrued that you might be eligible for. So protects your back pay. You do get retroactive compensation. There are a bunch of laws here where you have to have like a diagnosis at the time of your intent to file, things like that. You have to, this is a really important one for your intent to file. You have to do all your forms on the same day, because if not, your intent to file can be used up. Like if you do a supplemental and then your big claim, well, your intent to file can be used up by your supplemental, and then your big claim is left with no back pay. So those are all things to consider when you're putting in your intent to file. So remember, put that date somewhere, because that's going to be the most important date throughout this entire process. And then we're going to get ready to start. You're going to start collecting all your paperwork. And what I tell everybody, and I walk people of all ages through this process, all ages. I think the most 94 years young. That's kind of the age, the cap that I've helped somebody through, and I've been able to have them do it for themselves. And it's good for people, because at the end, when you get your benefits, something heals inside you. I remember I hadn't got 100% yet, but I had messed up my jaw. And when I got that, it felt, the validation that I felt on the inside was huge. Like, oh my God, thank God. Somebody else recognizes, like, I didn't make this up. These things are actually happening. And that's something that was real for me. And I think it's real for a lot of people. So through this process, you do gain that validity that you need about these service-connected disabilities, these real things that happened to you while you were in the military. So you're going to have this pile of important paperwork. And what you're going to do after you submit your intent to file, you've saved the date everywhere. You're going to keep this pile of important paperwork, and then you're going to go request all your medical information from all over the world, wherever you were stationed, anytime you went to an outside doctor clinic, anytime that you went anywhere. You're going to call and request the papers be sent to you. And when they get there, you don't have to go through them. You're just going to put them in your pile of important papers. That's it. And then once that process starts, because some of those files, they take up to a year to get. At the VSOP, we do have the best. And I will tell you this, we have the best records department. You deserve to know what's in your medical file. Sometimes I tell people, I'm like, do you know this was in there? Did you know about this? No, I had no idea. You forget, because it's been so indoctrinated to you. Like, don't go to medical. You're fine. Suck it up. You're going to white knuckle it through your life. That when you finally like sit down and look at your paperwork, you're like, oh, I do have some stuff here. Right? And that can be a really interesting process, especially if you're doing it by yourself, sitting down and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that injury, or I forgot about this. That's why my back hurts. All of those things. But that paperwork's going to come in. So you're going to start that process after you do your intent to file. But the team over at the VSOP is amazing. And what they do, and I'm going to tell you, because if you don't use them, this is the same thing that you can do at home, is you can sit down and you can go over and highlight every date and every injury on your paperwork. And that's going to take time once all your paperwork comes through. So you're going to start collecting all your records, service treatment records, medical records, civilian records, mental health records, line of duty reports, especially if you're going to file for mental health. And maybe you've been diagnosed with PTSD, maybe you haven't. You don't know if you were diagnosed in service with any other condition. You're going to want to get any reports from line of duty, because that could be something that verifies your mental health condition. Because the VA is going to be looking for evidence, like what happened. The DSM-5 is the psychology manual. And in there, it has like stressor events. So if you qualify under one of those stressor events, that could be PTSD, but then you have to prove that happened. So those are like those line of duty reports. And also, just if you're doing one of those, you're going to need a form called 210781. You're going to have to write down all your incidences. So start gathering your paperwork, all of those things. Then once you've started that process, before you start going to the doctor, you need to sit down and make a list. This list is going to go over the 4 different types of conditions that you're able to claim. And so we had somebody say something. What if I can't find certain paperwork or something is missing somewhere? How do I get maybe a witness statement? Oh, or a spouse. So if paperwork is missing and you need witness statements, those can be done on 21, 41, 38s. And a spouse one is, and somebody help me on this, put it in the comments. I think it's a 21 210 or something like that. Oh, I failed. But those are where you can put those statements. And when you're writing these statements, and hopefully you stick around and you watch the VSOP and you're part of all of this, when you're writing those statements, you have to tell the VA how you got the injury. Like, were you fixing helicopters and walking around with engine parts on your shoulders? Thank you, Haley. There, she put that form down. So if the form is in there, 2110-210. I don't know what I said, but that's the correct number. And if your family's going to write a statement, that's what it's going to be on. So that's going to be really important as you're gathering evidence. Those are also things that you can use for evidence, is those forms, news articles about experiences, things that constitute, and I'll stop here for a second and talk about things that can constitute maybe. So when you're asking yourself, some people don't ask themselves this, like, what happened to me in the military that could be a stressor event? And I'll go through the list. And if something comes up for you, ding, 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 you found it. So ever saw somebody get hurt? Ever lost a friend to suicide? Ever were hurt yourself? Ever were in like a life or death scenario? Were in a war zone, military sexual assault, harassment? If anything is coming up, and I'm saying this, any search and rescue missions, that's probably it. Write that one down and then try to see if you can find any evidence for it. So that's in collecting your evidence. And I'm trying to get back into this phone. Okay. So now you've started collecting your evidence, and you're going to now make your list of all of your possible service-connected disabilities. So there's 4 types of disabilities. There's a primary service-connected disability. This is something that happened in service. It's documented and you have a diagnosed link. So that's one. A presumptive condition. This is certain conditions that are assumed service-connected. So typically they're tied to eras, exposure, location. So if you ever heard Agent Orange be thrown out, or asbestos, or burn pits, there's presumptives that go with those. So the presumptives under the PACT Act are like irritable bowel syndrome, headaches, skin conditions, cancers, all of those things. Those are the conditions that you're going to sit down and you're going to write out. What is wrong with me? What happened to me in the service and what happened to me because of the service? Then there's secondary conditions. So for example, you have a right knee injury and now you're having like instability. That would be a secondary condition, right? And all of these can be found in the CFR 38. So if you're doing some research for your own, that's the manual that you're going to want to get. And I think that's what's brilliant about veterans is we don't always need to know everything, but we need to know where to get the information. And if you just point us in the right direction, we're going to get really close, I think. I think we're obsessive compulsive, a lot of vets that I've met. And we once we get our hold on something, we just drill down until we figure it out. And that's what this VA process feels like. And hopefully with a friend like me or anyone else in the VSOP team, it feels a little bit easier. So those secondary conditions. And the 4th type is stuff that happened to you within 1 year of getting out. Now, the government has a warranty on your body. So have you ever heard of people say, oh, those benefits, they're not for me, or I don't want to take away from somebody else. Well, this money's already allocated. The day that you get in, like, they've already figured out that you're going to get hurt, right? So you have 1 year after you get out to go to the doctor for anything else that you did not get treated while you were in. And if you do that, then those things are service connectable. And I have had people who have got out 20 years come to me and they're like, I never went to medical for anything. And I'm like, okay, cool. You got some homework to do, right? Write your conditions down. How did you get hurt? What happened? Let's go. And if you listen and you stay on course, here's something. However you decide to go through this process, stay the course. Because if you start bouncing around from one VSO to another, your paperwork is going to get all scrambled up. We can unscramble it. We do that every day, but it is a little bit harder to unscramble things. I will say that. So just be mindful of the process, where you started, how much stress you want to take. Those are all questions to consider. What path you're going to take when doing your VA benefits. So you pile important paperwork, start coming in, you made your list, right? And in the workbook, so we're going to take a break here. We're going to talk about what could happen next if you're going to stick around. So we have a course coming out. It's the Command Transition course. And this course is an immersive process into what it looks like to be a veteran in the United States of America in 2026. We're going to go deep. We're going to make sure that everything is done from start to finish, from organizing all of this, everything that I talked about, to how you're going to do your senior care. Because I think that's what people don't understand or don't ever get taught, at least I didn't, that this is an insurance policy that you earned because of your time in service, right? Hello? Yes. And so we need to know how to navigate it. And unless we can do that well, we're going to fail our families, I think. They're not going to get survivor's benefits or tax deductions or additional monthly compensations that they're going to be entitled to because of your service-connected disability. Like, if you are not sitting here figuring this out, like, don't screw your family because you're too afraid to ask for help. There, I said it. We can move on. But the VSOP course is coming, so if you really want help, come on in. All right, we're not going anywhere. Hopefully, we're going to open the course registration really soon, so stick around. You see that. And then we're going to try to hold it open until February 6th. But if it gets too full, we're going to close it down. All right, so now you made your list of all your service-connected disabilities, yes? Now comes another layer. And this is where in the VSOP toolbook, a digital product that's going to come with the course, but if you just want the course book, you're like, I'm going to do it by myself, I don't want to take the class, or I'm not ready to take the class, the book is going to go over this. So you're going to have to then figure out these conditions that you made a list of, right? You're one of two people. You're a veteran, so you've already got out of the service, or you're somebody who's about to get out. If you're about to get out, all of your documents, all of your list, all of your service-connected disabilities are going to go on one document, and that's a 526EZ. And if you're doing a BDD process, things that you need to know are that you have to file within 180 days, no more than 90. Okay, that's so if you're retiring in 2026 and you don't know those dates, I would really like, I know there's some people from the VSOP that are watching. If we can make a graphic with those dates and get it posted for people, I think that would be amazing. Get your dates for 2026. It's so important, okay? I'll make the graphic for you. So you're a BDD person or you're a veteran. And if you're a veteran, you're going to have to then decide what forms are going to be for you. So again, you're getting out of the service, you have to have a 526 EZ done. You can do that online again, or you can have a VSO file it for you. But these lists of your ailments, make sure that somebody is doing their due diligence and looking at your service record and doing like a really in-depth conversation so that you don't forget anything. Because again, this is how you're going to establish care for the rest of your life. So this is like the list, okay? This is what I know we're known for, our list. I love making a good list. Make a good list, friends. So that list that you made, now you're going to decide. If you're a veteran, you maybe have filed before, you maybe have been denied before or approved. You have to decide out of that list, what are you going to go back for? And so if it's been denied, you're going to use one of two forms. One is the 20-0996. That's the upper level review form. That is if you are disagreeing with the VA and the rating that they gave you, and you've already got all of your ducks in a row, you filled out all your evidence, you have nothing left to give them, you just know that they're wrong. And you're trying to be like, hey, look, here's what I see is incorrect. Can you please see if you see this as well? And I think, you know what, the VA gets a lot of hate, but honestly, there are some people over there that are trying really hard. Always be nice. Don't be a jerk to anybody through this process, because this process is hard enough. And if people decide to be mean, it just makes it worse. So anytime that you're talking to anybody at the VA, and if you say that you're working with the VSOP and you're a jerk, you won't be working with the VSOP for very long. I promise, okay? We don't take that here, and the VA shouldn't take it either. It's not their fault. It's a very complicated system, and not a lot of people know how to use it, but you're here now, so that's not an excuse. You have to be nice. So if you've already submitted all the evidence and you're just trying to be like, hey, VA, this is incorrect, can you help me out? You're going to use the form 20-0996. Now, if it's been denied and you have new and relevant evidence, like maybe a current diagnosis, some more statements, you're going to use VA form 20-0995. All of these forms, you just pop them in the search bar and they come right up, and they have an online tool. Thank God. These online tools that the VA has been creating are fantastic. They're really streamlining the process. So most of these forms that I'm talking about can be done in 15-20 minutes once you have all your information organized. The 526 EZ, that one's going to take you about 2 hours. Just if we're putting timelines down, it's going to take you about 2 hours in your process. So you have to allocate time for that. And all of this has to be done by that intent to file date. Don't forget. Okay? You're going to put on your fridge all of the things so that you don't forget and you don't lose access to your money. All right. So now, if you've self-filed, remember, you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for uploading your evidence, tracking your deadlines, reading your decision letters. This is why, like, education and hanging around somebody that's teaching you is a good idea, because that part is very complicated. You have to know why you're filing for things so that you keep advocating until you hit that finish line. You have to know what happens after you submit, that you go to a compensation and pension appointment where you have to advocate for yourself again. This is a really good point. If you're going, so some organizations will tell you, don't go to your compensation and pension appointment, just use our doctors and then go. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, do your research. There's some ethical things going on and some people that are getting sued in America. You don't want to be part of that, okay? Go to your compensation and pension appointments. These doctors at QTC, LHI, there's a few more of them. A lot of them, they want to help you. Again, have a good attitude. Because some of these doctors, it's their side hustle or it's their second job. And if we as veterans go in there with our shitty attitudes and just angry at the world, and I'm not saying this is everybody, I'm speaking to myself here. I was upset. This was a very hard process. I'm talking to myself. If we're not nice, the other person's not going to be nice back, and that's going to impact your experience. So be nice when you go to these compensation and pension appointments. Then after your compensation and pension appointments, 30 to 60 days, you should have a decision in hand. And if you get stuck, we'll talk about that. There are some things to get unstuck. Make sure that if you decide to go the VSO route, that your VSO has access to HAMES. A lot of VSOs don't. That's important to know. There's a lot of things when you're considering like how you're going to do this. So that's why I think a lot of people choose the VSOP, because we can be like, oh, actually, this is the point where you get a lawyer. Or actually, this is the point where you get a VSO. This is what's happening. We're just awareness. Like, we just help you understand what's going on, because sometimes going through this, I swear, it feels like an existential crisis. Like, you're going through a process and you don't know when it's going to end, and you don't know what the results are going to be. You don't even know if it's worth it. And you're hoping, because you filed an intent to file at the beginning and you were like, oh, maybe I could breathe easier. And it's hard. So you just got to take deep breaths and keep going, and remember that there is always somebody to ask for help. We're going to be here. The VSOP, the Vets SOP. We got to start saying that. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. So ask questions. Don't be afraid. We're here to answer them. All right. So now you filed all your stuff. You're waiting for your letters, and they all come back. And people get kind of frustrated. And I tell them, just see where the pieces fall. Because what will happen is your decision letters will come back, and one of two things will have happened. You either got approved or denied. And then you got to figure out, if you got denied, if you actually got denied, or if they were just missing evidence and they couldn't give it to you. This is not emotional for them. This is only emotional for you. To them, it's the law. To them, it's processing paperwork. And the more grounded that you can get, the easier this is going to be to get through. So once you get your decision letter back, you're going to read it. You're going to try to figure out what's going on. If you were actually denied, or if you were just missing evidence. And if you were just missing evidence, you're going to rinse, wash, repeat, and you're going to go back. That's it. That's all you're going to do. It's awkward. And you're going to go back, and you're going to do a supplemental claim. You're going to add more documents, or you're going to do a higher level review, where you're going to be like, I know I sent you all of my documents and you screwed this up. Here's the law. Here's what it says. Give me my benefits, right? It's that simple. And you do that over and over again until you're done. And don't quit. Check your math. Make sure your money's right. All of that stuff. Somebody said, like, you're like cheat codes, Leslie. I'm like, yes, I want you to have all of your money, not just some of it. I want you to have all of it. There's these things called special monthly compensations. There's different things. Loss of use of a creative organ. That's for, like, if you have erectile dysfunction or female sexual arousal disorder. If you have chronic pain or PTSD or other conditions, your what would you call it? It impacts your sexuality. So there's an additional special monthly compensation. I think it's like $138 a month. Go get your money, right? You're missing out on $1,300 a year because you don't want to tell the doctor about your problems. Like, that's actually what they're there for. And if you didn't catch the last video, I talked about how to go to the doctor and how to establish healthcare and everything. That was from last week's video. So go to the doctor and tell them. There's also special monthly compensations for aid in attendance. So if you're like elderly and need care, or need care at home for what other reason, you're having issues with your activities of daily living, there's an additional special monthly compensation for that. There's one for housebound. There's one for traumatic brain injury. There's a lot of different special monthly compensations out there that you're probably missing out on. All right. Now, the caregiver program is separate. You have to apply through a different channel. So there's VA benefits, caregiver benefits, aid in attendance, special monthly compensations, and there's a clothing allowance. So all of these are different things that you're going to be entitled to. And you have to be, what some people are like, oh, I got 100%, I'm done. Actually, no, you're not done. Like, you're just getting started, because at that 100% mark, if you don't do your due diligence and something happens to you, your family might miss out on benefits. If you're 100% permanent total, what that means is you hold it for 10 years. If something happens to you, then your family gets automatic survivor's benefits. If something happens to you prior to that, you had to have died because of a service-connected disability. And people think that permanent and total means like you're good to go. You're not. Go to the doctor, please. I'm here to tell you, do that. Some people are like, huh, I got my 100% taken away. And I'm like, why? They're like, I don't know. You open their file and they haven't been to the doctor in 19 years. You know, do that. Go to your yearly physicals. I know it's a pain in the butt. It's been told to you, don't go to the doctor. Don't be that person. Don't go to sick call. But I'm here to tell you, do that, because you want to maintain and keep your benefits healthy. And then with all of that, you're going to find out special additional compensations you might be eligible for, like your clothing allowance. All of that stuff, type stuff, is only accessible to you if you continue to get care and you continue to get evidence for that. We say, if I see a favorable findings on my decision letter, but they didn't rate me, what does that mean? Oh, okay. I know what this guy, yeah, yeah. I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" So, let's just, because the PACT Act, everybody's talking about that right now, right? So they could say, "Hey, look, we found a favorable finding that this is actually is presumptive for you, but we're just looking for a clinical diagnosis." Or, "We found that you actually do have this diagnosis, but you're missing this, this, and this." That letter tells you everything. It's just written in legal, very hard text, and it's hard to read. And the reason that I was able to come in and do this, and the reason the team, is because we learned how to read them. I read the SOPs when I was in the Coast Guard and I did finance stuff and government contracting. I was able to take that learning and bring it over to here. That's all it was. It's just a skill that you haven't acquired. It doesn't mean that you're dumb or don't understand or whatever. It just means that, like, it's just not a skill that you have. So you hire people or you find somebody to help you that does have that skill, right? So when you're oh my gosh, so many people, they get disheartened or they make up rules of why not to go back. And I think the made up rules are to protect yourself so that you can't get hurt again or get denied. But people are like, "Oh, I don't want to go back. They're gonna take down my rating." I'm like, they're not, if you do it correctly, if you're actually entitled to the benefits. Like, don't be afraid. But we are in the military, we're taught to be witnesses to everything around us, and sometimes that can cause fear later in life. So if you're experiencing that, I highly recommend that you reach out and talk to somebody, but don't let the fear of whatever stop you from getting your benefits. All right, we're coming back to this. We talk about special monthly compensations. 100% permanent total. So there's different types of 100%. I get this question a lot. 100% permanent total. There's a housebound one, so one where you cannot work. Your letter will say that. There is 100% that's not permanent total, which means you're going to be up for reevaluation. 100% permanent total means like the VA just does not think you're going to get better. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't like that. I'm like, you don't know that. Maybe someday I'll be able to give all the money back because I will be better. And I hope so. But the day hasn't come yet. Everything still hurts. um, So all 100% are not equal. You need to understand which kind of 100% you have. Okay. There's education benefits for your dependents at 100%. There's tax exemptions. There's survivors benefits. Planning for all of this matters. So you have to identify, what state are your kids going to go to college in? Start doing the research, start figuring out how to tap into these. There's other programs that you're going to be eligible for once you get your benefits, VRNE, where we're going to talk about that more. But all of this is leading into the rest of your life. And if the system feels chaotic to you, that's normal. It feels chaotic to most people. But at the VSOP, we've studied the system. Like literally, we got all of us. This is not the Leslie show. There's a whole group of people behind me. We all got obsessive compulsive disorder. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it feels like it because everyone is like, this button didn't work. This is different. What shifted? Like, we hyper focused on this for 5 years. We used our strengths. We have veterans and we have spouses and children of vets, and we all have these like little micro idiosyncrasies or whatever that we used to figure this out. We made it a science. We said, let's stop guessing. Let's figure this out so that we can get back to living, so that you can get your money and move on with your life. Like, there is so many other things to do in life than worry about money. So many, and I want to do all of them. So that's my big thing is, you're going to have, again, your pile of important papers. That's just tell your family, don't move my pile. If you're not a super organized person, your pile will work just fine. I help people all the time, and they just show up and plop their pile down with her. The first person I ever helped to organize everything that was going on, he'd been through 3 VSOs. He got out of the military in the mid 1980s. He'd been at 20% for a long time, had gone through 3 VSOs, and he was a airplane mechanic. And he showed up one day to my house and was like, you said you help vets, help me. And he dropped off this Walmart bag of just papers. And I just organized them. And I was like, oh, here's what you have, actually. And he got 100%. And he actually had been around the Camp Lejeune water contamination. And it gave him it gave him cancer a few months after he got 100%, and he passed away. But then his wife had benefits. Like, it's very amazing. I don't know what brought you here today, if you're watching this live or on the replay, but I really hope that you're looking at me. You're like, this is somebody that wants to actually help me. This is somebody, this is a team, this is people who actually are trying to show up. If you have witnessed us on the internet right now, we're like sending out signals. Hey, this is where you can find us. Hey, this is what we're looking for, our people, because we know that people want this information. And so we're glad that you made it here, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. Okay, so that's it. Next week, we're going to do another series and we're going to talk extensively about senior care. We'll do a recap here of everything the first 2 weeks, and then we're going to go into senior care and what that looks like. Because I think as vets, like, I wasn't thinking about senior care until I started witnessing what other vets were going through. And so we'll talk about that next week. I see another comment. I have a family member that is a veteran, and he has a briefcase and a tote with his records. Whatever works. 100% Walmart bags, briefcase, box, whatever works. A drawer, you just put everything in and pull it all out. You have to have it in one safe place. Okay, so this was a lot of information. A lot. We did better than we did yesterday, so I'm really happy about that. That's better. But at the VSOP, we're truly committed to helping. We've spent the last 5 years developing a system. Need to know even if you're not a senior yet. Yeah, 100%. You got to know this stuff. I'm going to say it. Okay? Because if you have kids, I don't want my kids wiping my ass when I'm older. Like, I want nurses and care and all of the things. Like, my kids don't have to do that, right? There's probably a nicer way. The veteran in me came out, whatever, you're fine. But that's why I'm doing it. Because if I need memory care, if I need whatever, I don't want to be a burden on my kids because I don't want my time in service to be a burden on my children. So, yes, you need to know about senior care. Okay, so the VSOP, we spent the last 5 years building a system that no veteran would get lost in. So, the biggest thing that people said in this type of work was, oh, they just forgot about me. They just lost me. They said they were going to help and then they were gone. Well, we didn't want that to happen. So we built a system. The system is awesome. You can text, phone call, email. Somebody on the team is going to get it, tell you what you need to know. That way you can move on your way. We're pretty good. Like if you call us, we can get back to your phone call within 24 hours typically. An email, a day or two. You can schedule an appointment within a week or two typically. It's accessibility for real. It's help for real. Text message, same day. Like we've put a lot of things in place so that people won't get lost in the system. And it's amazing. The VSOP is an amazing organization. And I'm not just saying that because I was a co-founder. I'm saying it because I get to work with the people day in and day out, and I get to see their dedication and how committed they are to making sure that the veteran experience in America is a better experience than the one people are having now. Okay? These people are dedicated. I've seen them look for grants. I've seen them look for housing. I've seen them just everything. They will figure it out. If they don't know the answer, they will find it for you and they will get back to you for real. So that's the VSOP system. That's $575 to get that one-on-one support through your process. $575 plus 10% on the back end. You can sign up at our website, VeteransSOP.com. Now there's pros and cons. Is there pros and cons to a big claim? I think the biggest pro and con is if you do multiple small ones, you're going to lose your back pay because that is meant to accrue benefits, but based on the day that you submitted it. And if you split them multiple up, like, oh, I'm going to do, some people want to do a little bit here and a little bit there. Well, you're just going to miss out on back pay because even if it gets denied and once it gets approved, the back pay is going to go to the original intent to file date. So that's the biggest thing about pros and cons about a small claim or a big claim. I say do one because then your timelines will be the same too. There's nothing worse than having like one claim on one timeline and another one on a different timeline, and then you got to figure out what timeline you're actually living on. It's confusing, okay? So, one claim. But this is what the VSOP does. We track all of this so none of this gets lost. And some people will get frustrated, but this process is also frustrating. So you have to remember, am I frustrated at the people that are trying to help me, or am I frustrated because the process is frustrating? Right? Get your perspective in order so that you're not an angry vet. Let's heal that, America. But the VSOP is great. That's $575 for that one-on-one support. You're like, I'm not there yet, but I'm interested in at least like understanding. Then I highly suggest and stay around that you're going to want the $49 digital product. Okay. It's a good product. It's going to give you everything that you need to know. It's like it's called the Veteran Toolbox, and it's designed to help Marines help design it. So we made it really easy. They helped us do it in crayon. That's their joke, not mine. But we really tried to dumb it down. That's what I keep that's what I keep hearing. Is let's dumb this down. So That's $49. And then we have an immersive 4 to 6 week class because you have to graduate. Because here's what's not going to happen. Okay. Veterans are not going to use the VSOP and be like, oh, that company sucked, or this is what happened. No, that's not going to happen, because every time that somebody complains, I see the team, they figure it out. They get it right. They call you back. And this is a good system. So this class, it's going to be a 4 to 6 week, very immersive. There's going to be homework. You're going to get all of your benefits, all your ducks in a row from start to finish. There's going to be no questions. You're going to be able to refer back to things. We're going to take notes. We're going to put laws down. Like, you are going to understand the VA system by the time that we're done. I promise. And I'm going to teach it. We're leaving it 4 to 6 weeks in case some people need some extra time to finish the homework, because I understand life happens. But you're going to get a grade. You're going to either pass or fail. And that's it. So those are the 3 ways where you can get help. Again, the masterclass is going to the dates will be launched very soon. The opening dates for enrollment. They're working on a few more back end things, but we're going to open that up, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be every Saturday morning. And if you can't make it live, you're going to be welcome to watch it on the replay, but you have to do your homework. So those are the 3 products that we have coming for you that we've designed to make being a veteran in 2026 a hell of a lot easier. Because I've heard, and I like staying in my bubble. I was a storekeeper in the Coast Guard, so put me in a corner office with some finances and some checkbooks and let me just play with numbers all day and I'd be just fine. So I like staying in my bubble. But I've heard that out there in the world, it is tough, right? You pay attention, and I see it. Credit card debt is really high. Mortgages are high. Like, it's tough. 10% is $150. What would that do for you every month, right? Groceries, new shoes for your kids. I don't know, $150. 90% is like $22 plus $100. 100% is like over $4,000 for some people, depending on how many kids you have. This process is hard, and it's going to take a lot out of you, but the reward, not just the money. Again, the validity, what it does for you, your healing, that process. I want to be like really corny and be like, well, it's there is nothing else like it. There just isn't. Because there isn't anything else like the veteran of the United States of America. Remember, not everybody signed that line. Not everybody was like, I agree to die for a cause bigger than myself, but you did. You're going to have to pull that grit out for this. So come on, do your benefits. Get this stuff done so you can get back to life. We're going to be here for the rest of until infinity. I'm not even sure, but when I started this work, I said, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So every time that somebody called when we first started the VSOP, and it was like just figuring it out and answering questions and not even charging people. We were just started to like figure out if we could figure out the system. I promised people from then, I will always be here. When your caregiver benefits kick in, I will be here. I can't do your benefits for you. I'm not a VSO. The VA doesn't think they cannot identify if I'm a person of good character or not. But I promise, if you want to research me, go ahead. You can Google me. You can Google the company. You can talk to the veterans who have had success. If you talk to the veterans that have not had success, you might hear some anger stories, but I promise you it was not for a lack of trying. We text, we call, we email. Like, we really try to find people because we understand that this process, 22 veterans die every day of suicide. We understand that number. And we take that seriously, so we try not to lose people. So that's it. I hope that if not here, you at least find somewhere to find support for these benefits for you, for your spouse, for your loved ones. If you're a loved one and you're watching this, I thank you. Thank you for helping your veteran. Okay. I appreciate that you're helping your vet. They need you really bad. People have way better success when they do this with a partner. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We're going to be coming back to these lives. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can add your questions. We're coming back. We're monitoring them. We want to make this experience better for you. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the VSOP team for being on these calls and for what's happening on the back end. There's getting split up and made into content, and I appreciate every single one of you. The launch is going to be awesome, and I hope that you stick around and see what happens. Bye.